What's good? What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome to the Black and Gold Hour podcast, the hottest and newest podcast for New Orleans Saints news. And in today's episode, I want to talk about the New Orleans Saints offense. And no, I don't want to talk about the quarterback rumors. I'm hearing rumors about the Saints possibly moving up for Kyle Trask or for Justin Fields. And then we got the other part of whodatnation, who is rocking with Jameis Winston. But for today's episode, I want to talk about the wide receiver unit for the New Orleans Saints. And I want to talk about my top 5 NFL draft prospects coming out of college at the wide receiver position that can benefit the New Orleans Saints. So I want to talk about the top 5 receivers that are most valuable to the New Orleans Saints out of the draft. I want to talk about their skills, intangibles, and what they could bring to whodatnation. And in today's episode, it's not a top 5 countdown. There's no particular order. We're not talking about the best of the best. We're talking about the best for the Saints. And we're going to get into it in today's episode. Remember to like, comment, share the page. We want to continue to grow. But let's get to these receivers. All right, so the first receiver that I want to talk about in today's episode is out of Ole Miss. Now, we know another Saints legend that's out of Ole Miss. And this kid right here, Elijah Moore, could be the next Saints legend out of Ole Miss. Now, he's 5'9", but over his 3 years at Ole Miss, he racked up 2,400 yards, 12 yards per reception, and 16 TDs. The dude has game and is projected to go around maybe the 25th, 40th pick in the draft. So the Saints, if they stay with that 28th spot, they could definitely have a chance to get him possibly. Now, when I was checking the scouts and watching videos on my own, the first thing I noticed was he has quick routes. He gets off the line of scrimmage fast, and he runs very low to the ground. That's what one scout said. And when I thought about a receiver that runs low to the ground, I thought about Brandon Cooks. And we know how electric Brandon Cooks was during his time in New Orleans and essentially every team that he's been on. I really think that Elijah Moore, the wide receiver, could really benefit the Saints offense because of his ability to get off the line of scrimmage. And honestly, that's going to be the attribute that I mentioned the most in today's episode, because the New Orleans Saints offense has struggled to get off the line when defenses have push coverage and that they're kind of forcing the offensive's hands. The wide receivers haven't really stepped up outside of Michael Thomas. And when Michael Thomas had a down year last year, we saw that significantly over the course of the season. So I definitely think Elijah Moore could be a player that the Saints could really use. And he kind of reminds me of like a mixture of Brandon Cooks and Lance Moore, because he has really good hands, but he also has the speed of Brandon Cooks. I think Elijah Moore ran like a 4.35. So he's definitely a playmaker and has great playmaking ability after the catch. So I expect to see Elijah Moore to go in the first or second round of the NFL draft, and hopefully he goes with the New Orleans Saints. So the next receiver that I want to talk about is out of UNC, Yami Brown. Now, Yami Brown might not have the hype of like a Jamar Chase or like a Devontae Smith, but he offers something that the Saints have had in the past and something that the Saints really need. Now, he's 6'1", 185 pounds, so he's a little bit bigger than what I talked about with Elijah Moore. But over his 3 years at UNC, he caught over 2,300 yards, 21 TDs, and averaged 17 yards per reception. The dude is nice. He's a strong receiver. His release off the line is great, and that is something that I'm going to keep saying. I already said that, but that is something that, has to be of main importance when thinking about a wide receiver for the New Orleans Saints. He's a playmaker and willing to make catches in all areas of the field. When I watched his highlights, I saw him catching passes on the outside, up the middle, up the seam. And the reason I think that he could really benefit the New Orleans Saints is because he's willing to do the dirty work as a receiver. He's willing to catch that pass up the middle of the field and take that hit from a linebacker, and which kind of reminds me of Marcus Colston. Now, he's not Marcus Colston. We know what Marcus Colston means to whodatnation, but Yami Brown makes plays very similar to Marcus Colston and could be that possession receiver that's side by side with Michael Thomas. And he actually has the ability to make plays after the catch as well, something that Mike Thomas doesn't always do. So I'm definitely excited to see what Yami Brown does in the league, and hopefully he might do that with the New Orleans Saints. All right, so the next wide receiver is out of LSU. And I know the saying is the Saints never really mess with LSU players, but in his 3 years at LSU, Terence Marshall was close to 1,600 yards and 23 TDs with like 10 yards per reception. And note, y'all, he opted out of last year just to prepare for the draft. And he's similar to Michael Thomas in build as well. He's 6'3", about 200 pounds, but he's more agile and quicker. He's running past defensive backs, catching passes over people. I mean, we already know about Terence Marshall. He's a guy that the New Orleans Saints could really use. And after watching the film, the first thing that I noticed was his hands. He has great hands, catching the ball with his hands and not his body. Something that a lot of receivers need to work on, just catching the ball with your hands. And I believe that he could be a great asset to the New Orleans Saints because he could play opposite of Michael Thomas, another big body, strong receiver. And that'll just give Jameis Winston more options because defenses are going to play tight and aggressive, especially as you get later in the season and in the playoffs. And I believe that having two strong, big body wide receivers will be beneficial for the Saints. And the other thing about Marshall is he has the ability to make the play after the catch. How many times did we see him play for LSU and just make those dynamic catches for the team? And I believe that he can be a more athletic version of possibly Michael Thomas and be something that the New Orleans Saints could really use going into next season. Okay, so this next receiver, I'm really excited to see about his trajectory in the NFL. He was a former teammate of Marquez Callaway, and he sat behind Marquez Callaway and waited his turn. And when he got the opportunity, he really shined. At 6'1", 210 pounds, Josh Palmer he's going to be a nice receiver in the NFL. Palmer is a strong guy. He ran like a 4.5 40. And, he helped, a really struggling Tennessee team put up some touchdowns and put up some points in a season where they were struggling. Now, they did have some inconsistencies at quarterback throughout the season, but Josh Palmer was able to get his stats and do what he needed to do as a member of the Volunteers. Now, the reason I think Josh Palmer would be beneficial for the Saints is because he gets off the line, good catching, great footwork, can catch the deep ball, and he can stay in bounds. He can make people miss. He can do it all. And he's a strong body receiver. Kind of reminds me of like a Percy Harvin type build. No, I'm not saying he's Percy Harvin, but he could have a great trajectory in the NFL and possibly with the New Orleans Saints. And he could kind of do all the dirty work. Like Michael Thomas will get those, slant routes and those deep, intermediate routes. But Josh Palmer can catch the deep ball just like Deontay Harris, but he can actually catch over the seams as well. And that's something that I think the New Orleans Saints were really missing over the last 2 or 3 seasons, just having someone who is consistent in the intermediate portion of the field outside of Michael Thomas. So I'm excited to see where Josh Palmer goes, and hopefully, he might go with the Saints. Okay, so this wasn't even like a countdown list. This wasn't even like my top 5 in order, but the next wide receiver I'm going to talk about is my favorite wide receiver in today's episode. And I want to talk about Rashod Bateman out of Minnesota. Dude is disgusting. I mean, sheesh, his stats are crazy. The dude was going crazy. He runs a 4.3. He did that at the Gophers Pro Day. He's about 6'2", 210 pounds. And he makes plays, one-handed catches, plays after the catch, making people miss, making people fall. He's breaking ankles on the field. Rashod Bateman is going to be a beast in this league, and I don't even know if he'll make it to the 28th pick, but he's ranked in the top 5 in most people's wide receivers list, and he was ranked as my favorite wide receiver personally out of the draft. I really like what he brings to the table, and man, Rashod Bateman could really benefit the New Orleans Saints in just giving them another playmaker. Jameis Winston has the ability to make all of the throws, but he is a new quarterback. And if he is the new quarterback, he'll have to learn the Saints system. He has 1 year under his belt, but the Saints, you hear Emmanuel Sanders talk about it in the past, and Drew Brees. It's very intricate. It's a lot going on with the offense. And I'm sure in his first year, he would like as many playmakers as possible to kind of take the burden off, to take the load off his back. And I believe that Rashod Bateman is my favorite wide receiver out of the draft and my top pick as a receiver to help the New Orleans Saints in 2021. And I think he'll bring instant success to the team in a situation, in a receiver group we're still going to see what the Saints receiver group does. But with Rashod Bateman or any of these top prospects, man, the sky's the limit for him. Y'all, that was my top 5 NFL draft prospects at the wide receiver position that I believe could most benefit the New Orleans Saints. I know it's a lot of talk about quarterbacks and everything like that for the New Orleans Saints, but I definitely wanted to touch on the position group that is also, going into a lot of questions as we go into next year. Michael Thomas had a down year, but he's going to be on edge. But we also need to see the other receivers step up. And I wanted to talk about, some NFL draft talent that I think could really, benefit the Saints. And I think I'm going to do this again next week, but with the linebacker position, because there are a lot of linebackers out of this draft as well that could benefit the Saints and help Demario Davis. We've recently lost Quan Alexander. And if the Saints don't get Quan Alexander back, the draft may be a route for them as well. So I definitely want to talk about that in next week's episode. But thank you guys for listening to the show. This is now the time of the hour where I kind of want to talk to you guys about life and share some encouragement and tips. And in today's episode, I want to talk about having a childlike spirit. If you have children or you've been around children, you know that they believe that they can do anything they put their mind to. They believe that they can be astronauts. They believe that they could be superheroes, and they have no fear and no doubt when they are chasing the things that they want to chase. Somehow, as we get older, whether through disappointment or through heartache, we lose that childlike mindset. And I believe maybe it's just due to, being an adult and being in life. But what about if we didn't lose that mindset? What if we still believe that we can do anything we put our mind to, that we can chase our goals no matter what the, obstacle or challenge may be, and we just keep that childlike heart in anything and everything that we do? So my word of advice and encouragement for today is really just to believe in, everything that you can do. Trust in the skills that you have and chase it, be anything. Don't let life tell you that you can't do something. Don't let life tell you or anyone tell you that you can't do what you want to do, and do it to the best of your ability. I believe that we're all called to do something, but it's important for us to just tap into our skills and tap into the positive energy and the positive people around you, and have that childlike spirit to believe that you could do all that you're called to be. But that's it for today's episode. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. We're going to do another top 5 list next week. But thank you guys for listening to the Black and Gold Hour podcast. I'm your host, Merv. Be safe. Be blessed. Peace.